Hey everyone, welcome back to our coverage of Fox's The Snake here on RHAP. We know reality TV. And this episode 8, it was titled Secret Snake. And I could propose a different alliterative title. Perhaps it's a little spoilery. But the alternate title for this could be known as Catherine's Karma. Um,
Mm.
and of course, I am here, joined as always by my wonderful co-host Chappell. Chappell, how are you?
Jenny, I'm good. I'm good. We're about to talk about another episode of Snake. Another person bites the dust here, and we are only 2 episodes away from the finale, and so I'm sure we have a lot to unpack about that. But yeah, this has been a fun viewing experience, and Catherine's impact is still being felt throughout the game. It seems.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the season takes a big hit last week, as we've discussed quite a bit with losing Catherine. Um, and kind of left us wondering. It's like, okay, she's kind of the one with like her hands in everyone's pots. I don't know. I'm kind of fingers and pots. I think I'm kind of like merging into BB-27 references at this point.
Mhm.
But with her taken out as she kind of emerges as this house target, you think, okay, people are going to have to start taking some shots here. And, we saw it in the last episode. Catherine, she turned to John and she said, I think this is going to be your biggest mistake in the move, and it's going to cost you your game. And of course you say that
You
when
say that.
someone's telling you to their face that they're just going to eliminate you. But maybe this wasn't the one and only thing that John did that ultimately has him being our eliminated person here. But you got to think that it certainly was a contributing factor because we're going to lose Mayor John tonight. Mayor down.
Yeah, bear down. I do think although we lost Catherine last week, and your mileage may vary on the queen of reality TV villainy as it stands right now, but
Wow, yeah.
I do think these last 2 episodes have been like the rise and fall of John. Prior to this, he was definitely scratching and trying to get away into some of these alliances, and it did look like he was making some moves and getting cozied up with, of course, the Frankie and Alyssa side, as we've talked about. But honestly, the power trip from last episode, the way he handled getting the house consensus on Catherine, in the moment, you and I were like, that's not good. That's not good. And now that we've seen it play out over the course of 2 episodes, I think we would all agree, and John included, that yeah, maybe we could have handled that a little bit better, and getting rid of Catherine wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But after we saw what happened when he got power, I just don't think there's any way he could just go back under the radar after that.
And I mean, John was potentially like living on borrowed time as it was, because if we're
Absolutely.
looking back to the Christine elimination, a lot of reason to think that it could have, should have, would have been him in a lot of other scenarios. It seemed like his name was the one on a lot of people's tongues. And it was more so a personal thing that kind of gets in the way here that has Jordan taking out Christine over John. But speaking of Jordan, this episode is going to start off with, kind of discussing the fallout of John's snake rain from last week. And, Brett saying that last night was crazy. And Jordan is going to straight up say, I want revenge. Like, she's like, you poked the wrong bear with Jordan, because she got super angry. She says she doesn't get angry very often. I feel like at one
Mhm.
point in this episode, she's like, there was a clip where she's like, I could punch him in the face. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Like,
and
she's upset.
yeah, yeah, and John's big move here is to try to bring in Jordan, right? As somebody he just burned, he's like, okay, she doesn't have a lot of places to turn. I need a number one. I got rid of her old number one, and so obviously, if we can make amends, maybe we can work together. And it does look like, from his point of view, it seemed like it could have been working. But every time we cut to Jordan in confessional or in an interview, she's saying, "Yeah, I'll work with him fine. That's potentially, that's something I could do, but I will backstab him at some point. Like I will get revenge for Katherine. And so in a weird way, yeah, he starts off after, taking out somebody who was pretty far on the outs for a lot of the house. Like, she did get the most votes in his system. A lot of people wanted her out, but not enough to where you could go about it in a way where these other people felt really threatened, or they felt like they weren't in control, because now the coin is flipped a little bit. It's gone from Katherine, and now they're back to you.
And honestly, well, first of all, classic move of like, I'm going to take out someone and then just try to take over their role. It's giving Derek becoming Devontae,
Yes, and he did, and
and he did. We are
yeah.
getting pretty much like blatant confirmation that that is exactly what happened with Derek. I mean, Brett can't say enough great things about Derek. But yeah, it's like, John is already this like third to Frankie and Alyssa. And, instead of having him and Jordan battle for being the third of Frankie and Alyssa, why not just become their own little two? The problem for John is that, like, yes, he comes to Jordan, he's trying to be super honest and apologetic, and he tells her, like, my big mistake was not pulling you aside separately to let you know it was, while this might be the way that it was going to get set up, it was never going to be you eliminated. I was never going to let you go home. He's doing his honest politician thing. The problem is, like, you just you can't go back from this. Like, you can't, he especially because he puts her in the bottom with Katherine
Mhm.
and like handles it the way he does. Like, it's one thing to be like, hey, I had to do what the house wanted me to do. I'm trying not to make enemies here. But I really see you as someone that I would like to work with. And I hope that maybe we can see eye to eye. We like all the same people. I feel like our interests are really aligned. Like, you can do that maybe even if you were responsible for her ally going home, but like the mishandling up until that point, I think, is a real issue here. Which you'd think that he'd like have to foresee how she reacted. Like, we all saw her last week bolt out of the snake lair or whatever. Who's lying to me? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, you could tell the difference between how Jordan and Katherine handled this. Like, you have to be setting yourself up for the fact that, like, this girl is pissed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's tough.
She wasn't even the target, and she was mad, so it's kind of like, yeah, you gotta smooth this one over with Jordan, but it's just not doable. And honestly, it's not going to save him in this round, because one of the wrong people won power. I think that he didn't have a lot of allies. I think it's pretty clear in the three-way face mask confessional we get from him, Alyssa, and Frankie, that they were all tight, but
Yeah.
I can't find the other tight ally in the crowd. And so if one of those two people, or three people in his case, is to win, I think he's safe. And then after that, he's fighting for his life. There are plenty of other targets, but it's so easy to pick off somebody like Mayor John and have nobody mad at you later on, and kind of feel like
Yeah.
you don't have anybody targeting you in retaliation, as we will see. Looks like, is Jack's ultimate move at the end.
Yeah, and not to go back to last week too much, but I think it's really hard to like eulogize Mayor John's game here without talking about the events from last week. And perhaps there was just really no path for him coming in like a couple weeks in. Obviously, we saw how things went for Christine. But it might not have made a difference. I still can't help but think about perhaps one of the starting missteps of last week is just winning the snake at all. And
Mhm.
maybe this was like not avoidable, given that it seems that Frankie was intentionally like letting John win it. But it's like, now that we have seen in this episode where Frankie's or John's basically going to do the opposite, and like really just try to make sure that Frankie's the one to win it. Like, I do think that it would have been much, much better for John last week to just let Frankie win it, because I don't think that Frankie is going to allow John to be the casualty here. I think it would be hard for Frank to take the shot. Especially he's good with a lot of people. There's clearly a reason why he was like, maybe I don't want to win this. John winning it, totally fine with me. But like, if there was a way for John to force Frankie's hand so that he's the one that actually has to win this, and then keep him safe, then just having somebody else take a shot that's a little bit more like, no, this isn't the house consensus sort of thing, I think would have been better for John, because it's like the longer this continues, it's like this game of cat and mouse, and these two kind of sides that really recognize, well, it's a bunch of different like sides at this point, but like all these little factions see each other and see the threat level, but like everyone seems to be a little bit afraid to take the first shot now. And then John is going to become like another easy casualty here, and he did himself no favors with how he handled everything last week, of course.
Who do you think Frankie targets if he wins last week instead of John? And because I can't pinpoint who it would be, which is why I know Frankie made the optimal move in not picking that spot. I don't know if John had the luxury of not taking the reins, but I definitely think that the way he handled it for sure wasn't great. And maybe, and we talked about this a lot. Who was Katherine in the bottom two with? Was it
It ended up being
McLean?
McLean, yeah. Because
Yeah,
Jordan had the long cane or whatever it was.
exactly.
The
So
python thing. Yeah.
although Katherine is not trustworthy for many people, uh, you didn't really do yourself any favors by taking out Katherine here. Like, if you were going to get blood on your hands,
Yeah.
I think the blood needed to be the McLean blood. I think you needed to go ahead and take her out, weaken Jack, because Jack ends up eliminating you anyway right here. I mean, I think it'd be hard to foresee that, but we talked about it last week.
Yep.
You have an opportunity to break up this like almost like a fortress of an alliance that Jack has around him. He has Brett, who's not going to turn on him. He has McLean, who's not going to turn on him either. And so, he has two people who are going to pick him every time that there's available. You got to start picking away at that, and now we're also seeing that there's other alliances within the bros that have now started to connect with Derek as an honorary bro, Amanda as Derek's honorary +1, so I think that was the moment that you just go for the jugular, you take out Jack, and then if Jack wins this time, sure, he could avenge McLean, but it is very attractive to maybe try to take out another power alliance, and we will see that there are a few of them in the game, like you talked about, these little factions. Alyssa and Frankie would be very hard to pass up on as a duo that you could take out. We could have seen this round, John doing the same exact move that he tried with Jordan, going to try to pull her in, except doing that with Jack. And maybe because Jack is a little bit more game savvy, it seems, he would have been on board with it. Now, there's, it's probably a stretch considering this is his showmance, and based on this episode, they do like each other a lot. But you got to start shooting at that other side. And I just don't think Katherine would have come for you, with you being so tied to Frankie and Alyssa. I think you just got to let her do her thing. She's playing both sides, but until she burns you specifically, I think you have to just go with it and go after the devil that you know.
I completely agree. And especially because you now have the information that there is somebody that many people have on their radar as someone that they want out and feel, threatened by. And if you don't personally feel that way, and I think that John, like, he sees what Katherine's doing, right? And he's just kind of like, I'm just gonna let that be somebody else's like move to make, because why would I make it easier for everyone else and not improve my standing in this game and basically just kind of reset things back? If anything, it kind of just makes it a lot easier. If you take out like the person that's stirring things up and causing problems for people, then the next easy move is taking out just the person with the least connection and like the easier move, you're Christine's, and now you're John. And so it's like, by taking out the bigger problem, you kind of just make it easy for people to kind of be like, I'm not ready to take a big shot yet. And that's why I kind of think that, if it wasn't inevitable in the first place, that maybe just letting Frank, somehow making it so that Frank was the one that ended up being the snake last week, so that you're safe, but also you don't have to be the one, making a decision for people. Because it's, if you're John, you're kind of like, I'm just here to like see what, like, who wants to stick with me a little bit longer. I'm trying to find like a dance partner here. I mean, clearly this is what he's trying to do with Jordan. I don't think that it really did him much good to get rid, do other people's dirty work. And again, the Jack thing, it's like Jack has never, I think he's the
Never.
one that said that he looked like a vape salesman as soon as he hops out the box. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, I don't feel like I was ever getting like a vibe that those two, I'm sure they were friendly with each other, but it's like they seem to never have really had a working relationship. So it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I
That's why I'm saying target McLean. This man is not
yeah,
working with you. You know it. Take him out. I understand why he would want safety. He was obviously the first one Brett targeted in that challenge. So at that point, you have to think you may be on borrowed time, or people might take you out. If it wasn't for Frankie being so good in that challenge too, he might have gotten targeted again.
right.
But yeah, I think you take out McLean there, and then you deal with those consequences. Because I'd much rather go out because I took a big swing, as opposed to I kind of like played it a little safe. And I think the Katherine thing was a little too safe, and still led to him going out one round later.
Mhm.
So but hindsight is 2020. We get to see everything that
Exactly.
he does not get to see. But we'll ask him those questions as well when we talk to him tomorrow in our exit press.
Yes, that is correct. We will get to talk to Mayor John tomorrow and get some answers to these questions, because that's the thing, is like, we also see in this episode he's not playing a 100% tucked and kind of, tidy, clean, honest game.
Bow tie the
He
game.
Yeah, he says he is, and he is to a degree. But there's like a little bit of like lie of omission, a little bit of, I mean, I know, well, apparently he is a lawyer. That's what Amanda said. I don't know if that had actually come out, but it was like a little bit of leading the witness with the way, with some of the ways that he kind of handles some of these conversations. So Mayor John was trying to play a little dirty. He just wanted to like do it in like a clean way, or a way that he can feign honesty, right?
Yeah, I like Mayor John, but this is a bad episode for me and my Amanda predictions, Jenny. But Mayor John is giving her way too much screen time. I've been loving my queen behind the scenes, doing a little strategizing here and there, betraying people, being
Yeah.
cutthroat in the confessionals. And she was one of the main characters of this episode. I was like, no, the visibility spike. I was concerned
Uh-oh.
for most of the episode that we might be losing Amanda here, especially once we saw John kind of heavily imply without saying that Amanda could have been coming for Jack. And Jack
Yeah.
believed it. Like, I was not expecting that at all.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, here's the thing, where we're talking so much about John and his decisions and where that's landed him, but like, I think eventually we also need to talk a little bit about our second snake in Jack and some of the decisions he makes here, because I think that he's been one of the strongest, like, most strategic players in the game thus far, and I'm like, I just feel like some of the, like, there were moments here where I'm like, is he getting outplayed by Mayor John here? Like, is he is he getting a little sloppy? Maybe he's getting a little too wrapped up in McLean. He's getting a little distracted. He's like letting his eye off the prize a bit. I don't know. But we should eventually get to, talking about Jack's decision here, because Jack is essentially going to make a decision to not strike yet, do the easy
Mm-hmm.
move. And we're faulting John a lot for that, for like letting that be available. But we also, there's some culpability in Jack here too, being like, he spends the greater part of this episode outlining two people that are bigger problems for him in the game than John, and he still is ultimately going to take out John here. So that's very, very interesting.
Yeah, I completely disagree with this move. I do. I don't like it at all.
Yeah.
That's why I was concerned about Amanda, because I was like, oh, he might actually be willing to do the thing. I think Taking out Amanda would be a big swing. I think a lot of people probably respect Amanda in the game. We've heard people talk about how you know how strategic she is, or how you can tell that she's smarter than she's letting on, all this other stuff. She's obviously a lawyer, and so I really thought like, oh yeah, it's pointing the finger over there. Frankie and Alyssa also came up as another duo that could have to be toppled at some point, and that will be really hard to do because multiple people have talked about how good Frankie is in the game as far as
Mm-hmm.
socially. Nobody wants to take him out because everybody loves Frankie, and it makes total sense. But Jack knows all of this and still kind of punted by coming after Mayor John here, and what I would consider is like the easy move. And it's the same thing that Mayor John did last week. So yeah, I agree. I think if we're going to be hard on Mayor John, we have to be hard on Jack here. I think that if you don't take the shot, somebody else will, and it could be
Yeah.
you. Now, to his credit, he is very socially ingrained in the house right now. Like we said, he's saved Alyssa and Frankie. So if they're afraid to make the big move, they might save him again. He also has McLean, who's willing to do some, campaigning for him if necessary. They're also very locked in. And then, we have Derek and Brett. Brett is 100% locked in, but I do think the combination of Derek, Amanda, and then, if they got it in them, Frankie and Alyssa could be a problem for him later on. But
Mm-hmm.
specifically, the detective Derek and Amanda. Detective Derek he's been on a roller coaster, Jenny. But like if I was going to craft a winner edit for somebody, it probably don't get no better than this. Someone who's sitting here saying it should be me. I'm the big bad wolf, and people are
Yeah.
just looking right past him.
And I mean, I feel like I made a case for Derek last week, and why I really
Mm-hmm.
think that it makes a lot of sense. And I feel like after this episode, I feel even stronger about
Yeah.
that because we're getting multiple confessionals from Derek where he's like, self it's like hyping himself, like talking himself up, but in a way where he's like recognizing like the smart move would be to take me out, and like in a way that is kind of a weakness because it's like if I've made it obvious that I know what I'm doing. And people know that. People talked about me in a positive light when we did that speaker challenge. Like people know that I'm a good, and I'm getting to the point where I'm looking at the numbers, things are dwindling. Like they should be taking a shot at me soon. So it does matter who is Snake and where I am. And he's kind of like at the end of the episode being like, wow, they're not doing it. Like, what are you doing? And so this is like really, as positive of an edit you can really imagine for Derek. Things could still not work out, but I
Mm-hmm.
just feel like in terms of winner contender, I know I said that my two last week were Frankie and Derek, and I feel like I'm putting way more stock in Derek after this episode, just based on the fact that yeah, you're right. Taking a shot at him or one of his like people was needed to happen here probably. And also just the edit of it all in how things are going for him.
Yeah, but this is some good gameplay from him too. To be
Mm-hmm.
able to take down the Bro Alliance, and no disrespect to my pastor, but losing Pastor Jacob is also a net positive. He was not good in the game. He was not good at the game, and so by shedding that, he kind of got this target off of his back. His big white collar off of his back, and then he started to be able to integrate himself with Brett. Now, clearly, he had already been working on that. Even
Mm-hmm.
in the war, because he seamlessly slides into that spot because Brett has a mutual respect for him, and we'll talk about that in whenever he gets a chance. And so yeah, by easing into the Bro Alliance, he's now made himself. He put himself kind of like in the McLean spot, where it's like I could take out McLean, but there are bigger fish to fry over here. With Derek, it's like I could take him out, but why would I leave McLean and Jack together? Brett and Jack has been together day one. And I don't know if it's as apparent to everybody in the house that Brett is as close to Derek as he is, Jack and McLean at this point. So yeah, you can't knock the gameplay. He put himself in a really good position. He has also Amanda, who has now emerged as a bigger threat, especially due to this fight she has with Mayor John. I'm sure more eyes are on her because of that. And
Yeah.
again, if you don't want to take the scary shot at McLean and Jack and Brett, this like three-headed dragon over there, I could see you going after Amanda. but I couldn't really see you going after Derek. I like if you were, this would have been the time. I think that we, like you said, we have 2 episodes left, Jenny. We don't know what the end game is like, but there are
Nope.
8 people and 2 episodes. So I don't know if we're gonna get a 2-headed snake, a double boot. I don't know if we're gonna get
We're gonna get Medusa, like a
right,
million snakes.
all the snakes
Like
coming out. Yeah, like I don't know. I just don't know. But yeah, Derek has put himself in such a good position, and nobody's saying anything about it. Like he's
yeah.
he's the person pointing out he's the biggest threat more than everybody else is. I don't think anybody is speaking as highly of themselves in the game they're playing as Derek.
No, I mean the fact that like there was a point in this game where, it was kind of Jack's side and Jack's people versus Derek's side, Derek's people. And now we're in the situation where, Derek doesn't even seem to crack the top 3 for people that Jack wants out here. That's pretty wild because, you know, at a certain point in the game, like, I think this was a good move for Jack and the guys or like, I guess just Jack and Brett and then, McLean by connection to them to be good with Derek and kind of just like, keep that as a thing for the last little bit. But like you said, we're getting to the point where like the numbers are down so low that it's like your opportunities to do something about this are almost like they're slipping through your fingers. And I understand some of where Jack is coming from with this decision from like an emotional standpoint and fear of like, well, I might just be the next one out anyway. But I can't co-sign this because I just don't think that John was a emerging problem for him
Mm-hmm.
as much as some of these other people are. And I don't know. I just don't know that like Frankie and Alyssa are going to be like, you know what? Because Jack was such a good guy and didn't take the opportunity to take us out, like we're going to leave him alone. Like these are still gamers and they're looking at the board and they're saying, "Hey, I like everyone left. Everyone left has been good to me at some point." Like there's really no house pariah at this point. Like we have to start making some hard decisions and, that's going to be you have to target a person like Jack. Like I actually think that Jack is in way more imminent danger than pretty much anyone else at this point. Because despite having like 2 very, very close allies in McLean and Brett, like again, I think because Jack has McLean, Brett's like, oh, Derek's my McLean, in a way, like we're buddies, but then Derek also has Amanda, and I don't know. Especially the showmance of it all, like I just really think that there is a high probability that Jack ends up in some trouble as early as the next episode. And again, without knowing how the game ends, like
Mm-hmm.
maybe he can get out of this if he still has like other people around. We don't really know how this game is going to end, but I just
Mm-hmm.
really think that he had to maybe best case scenario for Jack would have been Amanda going, because
Yeah.
I think he's right, even though she did not name him and not that he knows that. She is someone that would be a problem for him and is obviously a smart gamer. And I think people like Amanda, but I think that she's less emotionally beloved than Frankie. And if you're worried about that part of it and like really, really pissing off and hurting a lot of people, I think that Amanda's a lot easier to rationalize. But then she becomes unavailable to Jack. So, do you think that there's, because I'm just trying to figure out how did we end up in this situation where Amanda is not even available to be eliminated here? Because you got to think that Jack could have, tried to work things out so that Amanda isn't going to get saved so early that she's not even an option, right? And part of that is because of Brett.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this. There will never be a time where Brett and Jack and McLean are not linked. That's a 3-person voting block. So you pick one, all three of them go. Like that's just how it works, and it's been like that even when Devontae was gone, was there. So you only have so many chances to get these people in the bottom two, and so you would essentially have to get McLean to have the last, like basically McLean to pick Jack, and then the bottom two be Brett and Derek. You know, like that's like the only way that you can really work this out from what I can tell. It's always going to be tough because Derek's always going to pick Amanda. Like we have these people who are set in stone as they're always going to pick each other, and so those are the hardest people to remove from the game, because you essentially have to get all of their allies to agree that they need to be at the bottom in some shape, form, or fashion. That means you got to get nobody to pick Brett. Nobody can pick Brett, and the only person who
Unless
probably
he's
would,
last. I think
yeah,
you could
that's what they. But
probably,
the
but then you're
only
trusting
person
people. Like,
the
yeah.
only person who we know would pick Brett, well, the only people we know would pick Brett for sure: McLean, Derek, and Jack. They're locked in. So it's like you have to figure out a way to make sure that none of those people are there if you want to get a shot at Amanda, because she's always going to pick Derek. So it's really tough. You put Derek and Amanda in the bottom two against each other, maybe. I mean, that's the only way you get there, but you get there by leaving McLean and Jack and Brett until dead last. Now, that is possible if Jack doesn't win the snake. But here we see that the snake competition falls in his favor again. We see some very interesting gaming from Mayor John, trying to stack the odds in Frankie's favor. Jenny, I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't like that either. I was like, John, I get why you would want Frankie to win, but if you are not in the running to be the snake, we find out it's an invisible snake. But if you're not in the running to be the snake, if it's a complete secret, then you not having your name in the pot as a potential snake, like a person who could have won the snake, then people can just spend the day avoiding you. They don't have any reason to reach out to you or try to form any real bond with you because you definitely don't have power. I need to go be friends with everybody. And I could go be friends with everybody by painting a target on you. That can be my sticking point. And nobody can run back and tell you anything because you don't have any power. So I was like, I don't think he knew at the time it was
Yeah, I don't think that.
But it just like you put all your eggs in the Frankie basket, and sadly, it came up to be Jack. And so with Jack in power, yeah, there's no way you get rid of Derek or Amanda here.
Yeah, and I want to, okay, because I agree that even if he was going to try to make sure that, they at least know at this point it's a lottery, and that the amount of medallion chips or whatever that come back result in eggs, or I don't know. I really didn't understand the symbolism of all of this, but it's essentially like one of those bingo things with the balls in it. It's a lottery at this point. There are things that you can do to increase the chances of one of your allies winning without completely, showing your cards that you have thrown this, and not, having your name in there at all. And you might win, and like, you winning is still better than someone you don't feel especially great about winning. So I don't super love this for John here. But I do want to talk, and I know we should really talk about the challenge at some point, even though I feel like it was even just traumatizing to watch and imagine. The secret snake of it all, like, it wasn't fully secret to the end. It was like it, and it was a fun twist for a little bit because, yeah, sure, we don't get the reveal right away, who wins, and I don't know what the time that was that elapsed until Jack is going to find out that he is the snake. And then I don't know how much time elapsed from that point to when it's publicly revealed, but it's like there was still a point of time where it's revealed to everyone who the snake is. It's not a secret anymore, and there's still an opportunity to strategize after that point. So I don't know. I just feel like maybe this is a twist that just didn't really land well, because I don't know that people could take advantage of it the way that you would want it to be if it was a true secret from, like, I don't know.
I
Like,
agree.
I'm trying to figure out, like, how you do this. It was, like, a cute idea, but I just didn't understand the implementation.
I mean, I agree though. I don't. I mean, I think the solution is very simple. You make sure that the snake is invisible until you get to the saving ceremony. Like
Yeah.
no one needed to
Don't
know
give
that it was
any
Jack.
time. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
unless Jack wanted to tell them. Like it should have been from beginning to end. That way, what all these conversations you have matter. You have to politic with more people. You have to talk to more people. You have to work different angles, and then Jack, who is the snake, will get the ultimate decision at the end. But that'll be based on how much you interact with them. If you decide it's probably not Jack, I'm gonna focus my attention on somebody like Derek or Amanda. That's on you. I really do think that like this was the time for you to make as many political moves as possible and then see what sticks. I would have loved to see that more. If let's say the secret snake is McLean, how many people are going to McLean to work out a deal based on what we've seen? Probably not a lot. The show really paints her as almost like Jax plus one. A
Yeah.
lot of the content we get about McLean is like relationship wise instead of strategic. And so it's like based on that alone, I think that a lot of people would have overlooked McLean maybe in those conversations. I think that there are definitely other people who probably got overlooked. Maybe Brett as well, someone who you think is so aligned with the bros that there's nothing you can do about it anyway. You probably want to go to the head of that figurative snake on the bro alliance and go to Jack anyway. So I don't know. I just feel like you're right. It didn't quite give me what I needed, but the beginning of it was good. I like the beginning of it where they're like trying to figure it out, trying to suss out different things. Oh no, I don't think it was you. If it was you, we would know it was you. And I'm not a good liar. I like that kind of energy. And then to see I guess the shock on people's faces when, at the saving ceremony, it turns out that Jack gets to stand up as the first one
Was
saved.
it at the saving
No,
ceremony?
that's what I'm saying. It should have been.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
think
okay. So I was
it
like,
should have
it was
been.
outside, so it was like,
Yeah.
but it was such a weird reveal. No, I
Yeah.
I I know, because then, but here's the other thing I'm worried about in that instance where I do feel like while it was fun kind of watching the conversations and being like, I wonder who it is, they didn't even know like when they were going to find out. So I felt like all of the conversation was pretty cagey and that it could like we really didn't see a lot of real game conversation taking place besides Jack and Mayor John. And again, that
Mm.
doesn't mean that other game conversations weren't actually taking place during this and this just ended up being the one that was relevant. But it did kind of seem that people didn't really know what to do because they didn't know what to talk about. They had no idea what was going on. So it just kind of turned into like everyone sort of like hanging out drinking wine and being like, what if it's this person? And like, we
Mhm.
see Jordan like joking around being like, guys, I'm the secret snake. Haha, just kidding. They laughed really hard at that.
Yeah. Because they were like,
But
girl,
like,
no, you weren't. Oh,
like please,
stop
we
it.
would
Stop it,
know.
Jordan. Yeah. Well, Jenny, to your point, although I think it would have been vastly more entertaining to see them kind of scrambling the whole time, they didn't really give us that. And we've seen this a lot in Big Brother. You and I have definitely talked about it on Big Brother podcast before, that when you have a majority alliance, these twists, a lot of times they just benefit the majority because they make people
Yeah.
play a little bit closer to the vest. And so
Yeah.
it's like where I would know who to talk to, who to politic to, and I can go around and make those moves happen, bigger moves, go for bigger swings. Here, I don't know what my level of safety is. So I'm not gonna put my neck too far out on the line. It's like I could go to Jack. Like if I'm John, I could go to Jack and propose a big move. But if Jack's not in power and it gets back to the person that is in power that I went to Jack, then I'm the easy one cut from this. So let me just kind of like slow play this, and see what happens. So although I do think the strategy lends better to what exactly what you're saying, which is, this thing made them, play really tight. I do think the show probably benefits from, people not knowing a lot of, I guess who to campaign to and stuff like that, if we're going to get that kind of content, but they didn't. I think everybody probably did what was in their best interest, as far as like keeping that information as close to the vest as they could until it was time to find out who it was and then make a move. I wonder if it would have been better if they could have had time to make a move at the saving ceremony. Like Jack stands up there and then maybe we get a mad dash, a scramble. I don't know, but the
Live tribal
majority,
council.
right? But the minority alliances rarely benefit from something like this.
Yeah. And I mean, at this point, who is the minority alliance? It's just
I
John. Like,
I mean,
it's
well,
just,
I think Frank and Alyssa are definitely in a tight spot, but they do have Jordan, so that's a 3. I think technically the Row Alliance is probably the biggest alliance because you if the Jack Alliance, right? So
Mhm.
Jack, McLean, Brett, that's another strong 3. And then you got Derek and Amanda kind of right in the middle right now with
Yeah.
and I think that's it, right? There's 3, 6, 8.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I
And then John, if he's
well, John
still
is
in
gone.
the
Yeah, yeah,
game,
yeah. But
right?
he's gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but I do think that, like, yeah, if you're gonna make a move toward one of those bigger power structures, the moves that these people are afraid to make, I think they have to be able to nominate people anonymously as well. You know, like
Yeah. There needed to be more of an actual secret component here. I don't
mhm.
know if it needed to be like, you had to lock in like some sort of ranking or I don't know. Like I don't feel like I have the brain power right now to like really come up with how it would work, but I just feel like it was not secret enough. We
Yeah,
still got to a point where everyone knew. They probably had enough time to discuss the order of operations. There was no real scrambling. And I don't know that there was a ton of gaming going on in the hours leading up to the reveal. At least based on the edit, aside from what happens between Jack and John, which doesn't even end up impacting like it neither of the two people that Jack is acknowledging as problems to him, that he feels like he gets more confirmation from John that he should be worried about them, end up even going home. So um a little bit of frustration for me on how this twist played out. I think that there maybe is something there, but it at least made the episode fun in terms of there was a point in time where we the viewers also were along for the ride. We did not know who the secret snake was, and we got to come along with the reveal where Jim Jeffries is going to be in the confessional booth,
yeah,
um
yes,
letting us
hemorrhoids.
know he has hemorrhoids. Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry to
he lives
him.
with them. He lives with
He
them. He
lives
doesn't.
with them.
Yeah, there are definitely ways to get rid of hemorrhoids. He just decided not to. He opted out, which is
Yeah,
his right.
he said, I will not evict these hemorrhoids.
Mm-mm.
I live with them now.
Mm-hmm.
And what a brave thing for him to share
Very
on
brave.
television. But it was I thought this was cute little television that he is in the confessional room, and that the way that they're going to reveal who the snake is they're just going to walk in for what they think is a confessional, and Jim's just going to be there. So I did love the little reveal where I was starting to suspect that it was probably Jack. He did have the second most eggs, I guess. Eggs.
Mm-hmm.
Snake eggs. And I was just starting to feel like that was probably the case here. And yeah, we get the exciting reveal along with Jack that he is the second snake. But then it's like, okay,
Yeah.
now I
I
know, and now the other people are gonna know in like an hour.
I was hoping that Frankie would win the snake, not because of like I really wanted Frankie saved, which I do. Frankie's good. He's a good character. I
Yeah.
like him a lot. But I wanted to see if he's willing to make the move. I think
Right.
there's a lot of kicking the can down the road from these people. You know, like, oh, let's get rid of
Yep.
Katherine. We all don't like Katherine. Let's get rid of Christine. We all don't like Christine. Let's get rid of John. We all don't like John. But
Yep.
like Frankie, they call him one of the most powerful players in the game. We've outlined this a bunch of times. He really is locked in a lot of ways with a lot of people. But I don't think you can give someone credit for just having a good position when they haven't actually yielded the power or wielded the power, I'm sorry, to do something.
Mhm.
And I think that with Frankie, I want to know if he has it in him. I think that to me, I know that John was giving all of his, putting all his, snake eggs in the Frankie basket, but I probably would have trusted Alyssa more to do the big move. You know, like just based
For
on what we've
sure.
seen, I think Frankie is playing a highly social game in a way that Alyssa feels a lot more at peace with doing the move. And so
I think yeah,
that would have been my preferred outcome based on the information we had.
I agree. And I think that maybe it's just that Mayor John felt safest, like felt more of a guarantee, like maybe he feels closer to Frank than Alyssa, and that's why it's like better for him. Or, but no, you're right. It's like it's one of those things where it's like when you're playing a highly social game and you are benefiting from everyone liking you a lot and also feeling really good with you, it is scary when you get into a situation where now you have to make a choice. Like you can't make all of these people and be the good guy anymore, because you have to kind of decide who you're going to prioritize here. I mean, again, I'm going to talk a little bit about BB27. Like we've seen this like with Vince in the current season of Big Brother, where it's like, you get to a certain point, you're friend to everyone, then you're a friend to no one. And I do wonder as well if I think that Frank has enough game sense, especially having other people in his ears, that hopefully he would have taken, like, yeah, I think that we could have maybe seen like a Brett and Jack in the bottom to hear if he had been in power. But I also agree with you that I think that Alyssa's not afraid. Like, not to say Frank is afraid, but I just think that Alyssa is probably the kind of person that isn't as concerned about everyone liking her. And
yeah, for sure. Jenny, a large part of this episode was really dedicated to romance. How do you feel now that we've seen kind of like almost like this beautiful storyline between McClain and Jack, leading to this very public showmance? They get a night at Casa Amor together as well.
Yes, the snake lair,
of love.
Yeah, the bed was allowing for multiple occupants, and McClain very openly stays the night with Jack. I know I keep bringing up a lot of BB27, but I will say I've had to, in contrast, watch some not as fun showmance stuff. And in contrast, Mac and Jack are very, very wholesome, and it seems very mutual. We get a lot of confirmation from Jack in confessionals in this episode that this is real. He really does like McClain. This is what he was worried about. But this is kind of what's happening, and he really does prioritize her in the game. And they have like a really wholesome kind of conversation where it's like, I like you, I really like you too. It wasn't overly schmoopy. It wasn't like, oh, one person's really more into this than the other and is kind of like pushing it on the other. Like, I feel like if I am going to have to watch showmance stuff, and I do love that in these kinds of shows that naturally people come together, I do think that it is really sweet. This is the kind of thing I would much rather watch. It was clearly like a friendship that has blossomed to more, it's not going too fast, in my opinion. It doesn't seem to be like, too like, well, okay, you don't actually know this person. It does seem a little bit more natural. My only issue with it is that it really takes away any narrative for McClain besides being like with Jack, to the point where like I feel like Jim's feeding into it too.
Yeah,
like
boo Jim. Boo.
Yeah, like I love Jim, but like when Jack picks McClain first at the saving ceremony, like Jim, the audacity of this bitch to go, McClain, are you playing for $100,000 or love? And I'm like, excuse you, why didn't you ask Jack?
You didn't ask Jack. Jack's the one who picked her.
Yeah.
Like, are you mad at me for getting picked, Jim? Like, what is that about? I told my notes say the exact same thing. I was like, did they ask Jack the same question? Because he's very publicly aligned with McClain the same way she's publicly aligned with him. And I think strategically it's bad for both of them. And so for you to be asking that question of her, for you to be asking that question of her, I'm like, hello.
In front of everyone. And I also feel like that was Jack's reaction too, where he was like, huh, Jim, like,
right, like, duh, like, can you not see that we're in front of the entire cast? I like Jim Jeffries a lot, just and especially the interaction that he had with Jack in the little the confessional area where he tells him, because I don't know, is this new trend that we have in reality TV shows now where the hosts are actually interacting with
Yes.
the players a lot more? We live in a world where Jeff Probst and Julie Chen never talk to these people at all. And then, but like this year, Julie was in the house for the first time, and that like broke
Yeah.
the world. You know,
Jeff's
you and I cover
crying and
right.
Jeff's
We
hugging people all the time now.
Right. You and I covered Dondi and Joe, those are his
Oh yeah.
babies.
Yeah,
And I
for sure.
recently watched Destination X and Jeffrey Dean Morgan was very, like chummy with all the people. So I like
Oh,
this new
don't, please, not
era.
chum. Not
Oh,
chum.
we
Too
have to
soon.
talk about the chum. It's not too soon, Jenny. We gotta discuss it.
Sorry,
Jenny,
that was not me trying to change the subject. But
no,
I do think we have
we've
to
been
hold
skating around this.
Jim's feet to the fire about that comment to McLean. I do love his little
Yeah.
remarks, but Jim, I didn't like that too much. But yes, the chum of it all,
Blah,
disgusting. This is the
blah.
worst challenge by far so far, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I thought the fingernails was bad. Like we have very specific taste in what we do and don't like. I would say that.
Yeah,
I
sure.
would rather have tried to eat the chum like in that gross food eating challenge than to swim
Wade
in it.
through it
Blah.
with your
Why does it
face
say
like,
wade?
sorry, I don't know,
I
because they
don't know
were
why
kind of like
it felt
wading through it.
nastier when you
Yeah,
say
it was a gross
wade.
word, I
It
guess.
feels like
Yeah.
very
It
like
really brought you into it. You felt, yeah,
right.
see,
Like
like
ugh.
McLean gets in and I think she vomited immediately.
Which makes this even worse because why are
Now
y'all
there's
adding
vomit in
nastiness?
there.
Could you imagine like you're like crawling through chum but trying to avoid the snot and
Yeah.
vomit floating around? Ugh,
Yeah.
so gross.
Yeah. It was one of those things where it's like, I can't smell this, but I can,
Oh
like
yeah.
my television
They-
is not allowing me to smell this, but I can. The
Mhm.
the descriptions of the scents all really resonated with me. I just felt like, yep. Yeah, I believe that it's terrible, that terrible and worse. So disgusting, so vile. I will say the challenges, like there hasn't been a single one that I feel like there wasn't something where you're like, damn, that's testing somebody,
Yeah.
except for the one where it was just on someone's plate.
Yeah, that maybe even like the snake in the boxes. Well, no, that's scary if you
I
like if
don't
you don't
know,
like snakes.
like a lot of people are afraid of snakes. I would have been
I
stressed out
forgot.
about,
I
yeah,
love snakes. I forgot.
because you love
Oh,
snakes, exactly. Yeah,
okay. So I'm sure someone loves chum. There's a
sure.
shark somewhere that
I
was
would
like, yeah, this is my shit.
Yeah, I want to know the person that's like, I fully would have loved to
This
wade
was
through the
my
chum,
challenge.
and the
Yeah,
smell would not have bothered me at all. Because then I'm gonna recommend medical care for that person, because that
absolutely.
is messed up.
They
I don't
described it
remember why
as
anyone would want that.
they said it was like dirty toilet water. I think
Mhm.
Jordan said it smells like shit, but like worse. But like, it does smell like worse than her shit
Yeah,
specifically.
she's like, actually, my shit smells better. And I was like,
Right. Frankie said hot
probably yes.
garbage on a sunny day. Yeah, it was bad. It was
Yeah,
bad.
yeah.
We got a little content from Brett in the chum too. He did really good in the challenge, but he did not like that John was helping Frankie out. He said it
Oh
was
yeah, he
cheating.
said it's cheating. I thought we were gonna get like is he gonna call them out?
Yeah. Pull a Pastor Jacob.
Yeah, I'd be like, excuse me. It didn't work too well, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, I mean, Brett is clearly like a competitive guy. He's literally a professional boxer. So I think that
Mhm.
he's looking and he's like, this isn't a team challenge. What are we
No.
doing? I don't like this. But I also thought it was funny because Brett was saying that he thought it was between him and Frankie. And I think that like Brett had like the fourth like highest amount
No.
of.
I think Brett had 22.
Oh, okay, third.
Yeah, he was third. It was
But
between
Derek only had 2 less than that, so
yeah.
it wasn't,
Yeah.
yeah.
He counted
But I
out
suppose
Jack.
Jack only had 3 more
Uh-huh.
than Brett, so you're right.
Yeah.
But he was like,
It's
"It's between me and Frankie," and I was like, "Oh, it's
yeah, you
not."
thought. You thought, and that's okay. You
It's
thought.
close enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Brett was pissed. Yeah. eh, I need to see what happens next at this point. Like,
Yeah, I'm
I
ready.
am obviously it's gonna depend on who's the snake next. We obviously have things falling into a little bit of these little pairs. Um, we should be on Amanda watch because we got
Okay.
another confessional right at the end of the episode about her, she's like, I'm the snake and I'm going to win it all. And we got a little bit more like personal content from Amanda. So I don't know if, again, like you said, this is like visibility spike and we need to be worried that she's the next to go, or if this is just we're ramping it up for the winner edit. I don't know. But I would like to hear from the fellow Chappell's fellow Amanda truthers. Not to say that I was, and I still picked her to be a winner pick. I just feel like it's kind of starting to fade a little bit for me. But if people, if they still see a path for Amanda here, given all the heat on her at the end of this episode.
Bad episode for Amanda for sure. And but like you said, content wise, maybe they're just trying to give us a more well-rounded winner. Not to get into any spoilers, but I did see in the coming next week episode, someone asked Amanda, did you kiss Brett?
Yeah. I think it was
And
McLean asking Amanda if she kissed Brett, and Amanda's crying and saying that's not who she is.
or who she wants to be or something.
Yeah, she's like, that's not who I am.
But like, what do you mean by that? Because she does.
Well,
what do you mean by that? What does she
and
mean?
that's I know, that's why I'm like, I'm very very excited to see what next episode has in store, because we do know that Amanda, in the Devontae boot episode, we get the reveal that Amanda has a significant other back home, and that she basically kind of got like a mini pass to do what she needed to do for the game. And it made me wonder, I'm like, does she, but Brett doesn't even like her. So I'm like, Brett has been like staring her down since his boy Devontae left. So I'm just like, the math is not mathing for me to figure out how this could be a thing. So many questions going into next week. What is this about?
I no clue, but I do love mess, and I
Yes.
am very much enjoying the show. I want to give a big shout out to all the people who are watching along with us, the people in the YouTube comments. We definitely see you. And we appreciate the feedback, because I think this show, there's a lot of potential there. Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of potential for this show to do great things. I don't know what the ending is going to be like, but I do know that sometimes will make or break it. And so since we only have 2 more episodes, and I'm sat, Jenny, I'm ready to find out what's going to happen next.
I am too. Yeah, I see room for improvement, but I like, it's been a really fun ride so far. And, as always, in the comments, if we've talked a lot about like how could they have improved the secret snake twist, was there something there? You guys always have great ideas. So let us know what you think. I want to also hear from people on who they're feeling is our winner here, based on the edit, because I know we've been talking a lot about the contenders here. But yeah, 2 episodes left. We're in the home stretch. We will be back tomorrow to well, I guess I don't know when the interview will go up, but we will be talking to Mayor John in our exit interview, so make sure to check that out. And we'll be back again next week with our recap of episode 9. And I'm very excited. But yeah, in the meantime, Chappell, what else do you have going on?
So I host this podcast called Nothing But Netflix, and this week we're going to be talking about The Biggest Loser. There's a documentary about The Biggest Loser behind the scenes, and I have one of the biggest. Yeah, and I have one of the biggest Loser fans of all time, Brandon Donlin, at my disposal. So people can check me out talking to Brandon Donlin about The Biggest Loser on the Nothing But Netflix podcast. Subscribe to that at nothingbutpod.com. And then you can check out my other content over on recapkickback.com. We're going to talk about War of the Worlds this week. Me and Mari, Chantel and I have to come back at some point to talk about the rest of Flavor of Love season 1. And then you can follow me on all social media platforms at Recap Kickback to keep up with that. Jenny, what about you?
I've been talking a lot about Big Brother 27 in this recap, so sorry about that. But if you're behind on your BB27 podcast, I was on the Sunday night recap most recently the other night, and that was a really great time. And I'm enjoying that. Is a whole other mess. Chappell knows a lot about that. Check out the slop as well. Check out Chappell on the slop, of course. And that's pretty much it. Just really enjoying this home stretch of the snake, and we'll see what happens next. All my love to all of our listeners. I really, really appreciate you guys sticking around and enjoying what Chappell and I do, because this is fun for me. I get to talk about a fun show with Chappell. I'm happy. I appreciate you all. We will be back with our exit interview with John, and we'll be back for episode 9 next week. And until then, have a good one. Bye.
Peace.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.